chosen one. The universe has been whispering your name through every rejection, every misunderstanding, every moment when someone looked at you and said you're too much. What they called excessive was actually precision. What they labeled as arrogance was divine alignment. The very things that made you feel isolated were the exact frequencies that marked you as set apart for something greater than their limited imagination could comprehend. There's a reason surface-level conversations drain your soul while deep truths ignite fires in your chest. This isn't coincidence, this is cosmic architecture. Every awkward social interaction, every time you felt like an alien among your own species, every moment of profound loneliness was calibrating your spiritual frequency for a mission that requires someone who cannot and will not blend into the background noise of mediocrity. The hunger in their eyes when they look at you isn't admiration, it's recognition. Deep in their subconscious, they recognize what authenticity looks like, even if they've forgotten how to embody it themselves. They see someone who moves through the world without asking permission, without seeking validation, without dimming their inner light to make others comfortable in their chosen darkness. This recognition terrifies and magnetizes them simultaneously, creating the push-pull dynamic that has probably confused you for years. But here's where things get more sinister and where your understanding must sharpen. They don't just want to be near you, they want to dissect you. They study your mannerisms, analyze your speech patterns, memorize your responses to different situations. They're conducting spiritual reconnaissance, trying to reverse engineer the source code of your unshakable inner peace. You've probably noticed how they hang on your every word during conversations, not because they're genuinely interested in your thoughts, but because they're searching for the secret formula they believe will transform their own hollow existence. This obsession reveals something profound about the spiritual starvation plaguing this generation. They've been fed a steady diet of superficial connections, manufactured emotions, and algorithmic validation for so long that encountering someone who operates from genuine depth feels like stumbling upon water in a desert. They don't even understand what they're craving. They just know that being around you satisfies a hunger they didn't realize they had. Your presence feeds parts of their soul that have been withering from neglect, which explains why some become almost addictive in their pursuit of your attention. Here's what's about to unfold in your understanding. Every person who has ever tried to possess you, change you, or convince you that you're too intense was actually confirming your divine assignment. The very resistance you've encountered has been the universe's way of strengthening the exact qualities you'll need for what's coming. Each rejection was a redirection. Each misunderstanding was protection. Each lonely night was preparation for the profound responsibility of carrying light in a world that has grown comfortable with shadows. The magnetic pull others feel toward you isn't random attraction, it's spiritual recognition. Something ancient in their DNA remembers what wholeness looks like, even if their conscious mind has forgotten. When they're near you, dormant parts of their soul begin to stir. Old dreams they buried start clawing their way back to the surface. Forgotten purposes begin pulsing with life again. This is why some people become obsessed with your presence while others feel compelled to destroy it. Your very existence is a mirror reflecting both their potential and their abdication of that potential. What most chosen ones never realize is you're not just triggering individuals, you're disrupting entire systems. Your refusal to participate in dysfunction exposes the fragility of structures built on lies, manipulation, and spiritual laziness. When you walk into a workplace and refuse to engage in gossip, the whole toxic culture suddenly feels unstable. When you enter a social circle and won't participate in the competitive comparison game, everyone's carefully constructed facades begin to crack. When you join a family gathering and won't enable the generational trauma patterns, the entire dysfunctional ecosystem starts to wobble. This is why your mere presence can clear rooms, end friendships, and create unexpected career obstacles. You're not doing anything aggressive or confrontational, you're simply being authentically yourself. But authenticity is kryptonite to systems that depend on everyone agreeing to pretend, perform, and perpetuate illusions. Your light doesn't just illuminate truth, it casts shadows that reveal what people have been hiding from themselves and others. The most dangerous realization for those around you is that if you can live this way with integrity, boundaries, and genuine self-respect, then they have no excuse for their own compromises. Your existence invalidates every victim story, every justification for settling, every reason they've given themselves for accepting less than they deserve. This confrontation happens without you saying a word, which makes it impossible for them to argue against or defend themselves from. Understanding this dynamic will transform how you interpret every strange interaction you've ever had. That person who studied your every move but then turned cold without explanation. They saw their own unrealized greatness reflected in your confidence and couldn't bear the confrontation. The friend who suddenly became competitive and started undermining you. Your growth highlighted their stagnation, and instead of rising to meet you, they chose to pull you down to their level. The romantic partner who was fascinated by your depth but then complained you were too complicated. They wanted access to your inner world without the responsibility of becoming worthy of it. Each of these encounters has been teaching you the same fundamental lesson: you are not a commodity to be consumed, but a force to be reckoned with. The people who approach you with transactional energy, seeking to extract your wisdom, your peace, your power, without offering anything of equal value in return, are revealing their spiritual immaturity. They see you as a resource rather than recognizing you as a sovereign being with your own sacred purpose. This revelation should ignite something fierce within you. The realization that you've been operating from a scarcity mindset, trying to prove your worth to people who were never qualified to judge it. The understanding that you've been shrinking yourself to fit into spaces that were never designed to contain your magnitude. The recognition that every time you diluted your truth to make others comfortable, you were actually betraying the divine assignment that flows through your veins. Now this is where everything shifts, the moment that separates the chosen from the merely different. Most people who feel misunderstood spend their entire lives seeking validation from the very people who rejected them. They chase the approval of those who hurt them, trying to prove they were worthy all along. This is spiritual suicide. You were never meant to convince anyone of your value. You were meant to be so undeniably authentic that the right people would recognize you instantly, while the wrong people would eliminate themselves from your orbit. The shift happens when you stop trying to be understood and start trusting that you're operating according to a blueprint most people can't even perceive. Your internal compass has been calibrated by experiences that would have destroyed weaker souls, giving you access to frequencies of wisdom that can't be learned from books or borrowed from others. This wisdom doesn't need external validation because it was forged in the furnace of lived truth. When you finally embrace this understanding, something profound occurs in your energy field. The desperate edge disappears from your interactions. The need to explain, justify, or defend your choices evaporates. You begin moving through the world with the quiet confidence of someone who knows exactly why they're here and refuses to apologize for taking up space. This transformation is visible to everyone around you, even if they can't articulate what changed. The loneliness you felt wasn't evidence of your inadequacy, it was evidence of your rarity. Diamonds aren't found scattered across the surface of the earth for anyone to pick up. They're buried deep, formed under intense pressure, and remain hidden until someone with the right tools and knowledge recognizes their value. Your isolation has been protection, preventing you from being handled by those who would mistake your brilliance for common stone. But something is shifting now. The frequency of your authenticity is reaching the exact people who have been searching for someone like you their entire lives. Not people who want to change you or use you, but people who recognize your value and honor it. Not people who are intimidated by your light, but people who have been doing their own inner work and can stand in your radiance without being overwhelmed. Not people who want to possess you, but people who want to witness the full expression of your divine purpose. This attraction operates on laws that transcend human understanding. When you stop apologizing for your intensity, stop explaining your boundaries, stop defending your choices to people who were never meant to understand them, you begin operating at a frequency that repels those who would drain you and magnetizes those who would amplify you. The universe has been waiting for you to stop playing small so it can connect you with other souls who operate at your level of consciousness. The mathematics of this spiritual law are precise and unforgiving. Every moment you spend trying to convince someone of your worth is energy stolen from your actual purpose. Every conversation where you find yourself explaining why you deserve basic respect is a conversation with someone who has already revealed their spiritual immaturity. Every relationship where you feel like you're performing rather than simply being is a relationship that's actively working against your divine assignment. The universe literally removes everyone who would dilute your focus, compromise your standards, or drain your energy reserves. What feels like abandonment is actually protection. What seems like rejection is actually redirection. The emptiness you experience isn't evidence that you're unlovable. It's evidence that you're being prepared for connections that match your frequency. During these isolation periods, something crucial develops within you, the ability to be completely content with your own company. This isn't just self-sufficiency, this is spiritual sovereignty. When you no longer need external validation to feel whole, when you no longer require constant companionship to feel worthy, when you can sit in silence with yourself and feel genuinely fulfilled, you become untouchable by manipulation tactics that work on everyone else. The resistance you've faced has been sculpting you into someone who cannot be easily manipulated, controlled, or derailed from your purpose. Every betrayal taught you discernment. Every rejection taught you self-reliance. Every moment of isolation taught you the difference between being alone and being lonely. These weren't punishments, they were prerequisites for the level of influence you're about to step into. Most people operate from wounds they haven't healed, projecting their insecurities onto everyone around them. They create drama to feel important, chaos to feel alive, conflict to feel connected. Your refusal to participate in these dysfunctional patterns exposes them for what they are, desperate attempts to fill voids that can only be filled from within. Your peace threatens their chaos, your clarity challenges their confusion, your authenticity confronts their performance. What makes this dynamic even more complex is that many people don't even realize they're operating from dysfunction. They genuinely believe their chaotic lifestyle is normal. They've been conditioned to equate intensity with passion, drama with depth, and struggle with authenticity. When they encounter someone who has found genuine peace, who experiences real joy, who lives from a place of actual fulfillment, it shatters their worldview so completely that they often respond with hostility rather than curiosity. This hostility manifests in predictable ways. They'll accuse you of being fake, claiming that no one is really that peaceful or content. They'll suggest you're naive, insisting that life is supposed to be a constant struggle. They'll imply you're privileged, assuming that your inner peace must come from external advantages rather than internal work. These accusations reveal more about their own spiritual poverty than your character, but understanding this pattern helps you recognize when someone is projecting rather than genuinely connecting. The most insidious form of this hostility is when people attempt to pull you back into dysfunction by creating crises that demand your attention. They'll manufacture emergencies, amplify minor problems into major dramas, or suddenly develop urgent needs that require you to abandon your boundaries and rush to their rescue. This is spiritual manipulation disguised as need, and your ability to recognize and resist these tactics is crucial for maintaining your alignment. This is why they study you so intently while claiming they don't care. They're trying to reverse engineer your confidence, decode your peace, replicate your magnetic presence. But these qualities can't be copied because they weren't learned, they were forged. In the furnace of trials that would have broken lesser souls, you discovered unshakable truths about who you are and why you're here. These truths became the foundation of an inner strength that cannot be imitated. The obsidian inner order is where you can process difficult realizations together every week on our Zoom calls with people who understand that some of life's most painful experiences become our greatest teachers. We don't encourage bitterness, we cultivate wisdom. Your ability to see people's true character is a gift that will protect you from future betrayals. Your willingness to forgive while maintaining boundaries shows strength, not weakness. Your wisdom was earned through experience, not given freely. Connect with people who value truth. Join the Obsidian Inner Order, link in the description. The depth of your character intimidates those who have never been willing to explore their own depths. Your willingness to sit with uncomfortable emotions, to face difficult truths, to choose growth over comfort, makes them confront their own avoidance patterns. Your refusal to numb yourself with distractions, substances, or toxic relationships forces them to acknowledge their own dependencies. Your commitment to healing forces them to face their own wounds. Some will rise to meet this challenge, inspired by your example to begin their own journey of transformation. These are the ones who will become genuine allies, friends, partners worthy of your trust. But others will choose resentment over responsibility, criticism over curiosity, destruction over development. These are the ones who will try to convince you that your standards are too high, your boundaries too rigid, your expectations unrealistic. Their opinions reveal more about their limitations than your character. When someone tells you that you're too much, they're really saying that their capacity is too small. When they accuse you of thinking you're better than everyone, they're projecting their own feelings of inadequacy. When they claim you're hard to love, they're admitting they don't know how to love someone who won't diminish themselves for their comfort. The universe has been protecting you from these limiting relationships by making you incompatible with anyone who would require you to betray your authentic self. Every connection that felt forced, every relationship that demanded you perform a role instead of simply being yourself, every situation where you felt like you were wearing a mask was the universe's way of showing you what you're not meant to accept. Your sensitivity to inauthenticity isn't a flaw, it's a superpower. Your ability to detect manipulation, your discomfort with superficiality, your need for genuine connection are all part of the spiritual technology that allows you to navigate a world full of people who have forgotten their true nature. You're not antisocial, you're selectively social. You're not difficult, you're discerning. Trumpers out T. This discernment operates like a sophisticated radar system, detecting frequencies that others can't even perceive. You can sense when someone is performing rather than being authentic. You can feel the difference between genuine interest and calculated manipulation. You can distinguish between healthy boundaries and manipulative withholding. You can recognize when someone is operating from their wounded child versus their integrated adult self. These abilities aren't learned skills, they're innate gifts that have been sharpened by your experiences. The challenge with having such refined discernment is that it can make you feel isolated in a world where most people operate from masks and personas. You crave authentic connection, but authenticity is rare. You desire deep conversation, but most people are terrified of depth. You want to be truly seen and known, but most people are too busy performing to actually witness anyone else's truth. This creates a paradox that many chosen ones struggle with. The more conscious you become, the smaller your social circle becomes. The more healed you become, the less tolerance you have for dysfunction. The more authentic you become, the more fake everyone else seems. This isn't arrogance, this is the natural consequence of spiritual growth. You're not becoming judgmental, you're becoming aligned with what serves your highest good and what doesn't. This discernment has been developing your entire life, preparing you for a level of responsibility that requires someone who cannot be fooled, bought, or distracted from their mission. The reason you felt like you don't belong anywhere is because you weren't sent to fit into existing structures, you were sent to create new ones. The reason conventional paths have felt suffocating is because you're here to pioneer unconventional solutions. Every system you've questioned, every tradition you've challenged, every rule you've felt compelled to break was your soul recognizing that these structures were not designed with your frequency in mind. You weren't born to color within the lines drawn by people who never imagined someone like you would exist. You were born to expand the canvas entirely, to show others that there are ways of being they never considered possible. The loneliness you've endured was necessary solitude, giving you space to develop a relationship with your own inner wisdom without the interference of other people's projections and expectations. In that solitude, you discovered truths that can only be found in silence. You accessed parts of yourself that can only emerge when you're not performing for an audience. You connected with a source of guidance that speaks in whispers, not shouts. This inner guidance has been leading you away from everything that would compromise your integrity and toward everything that aligns with your purpose. Every door that closed was protecting you from a path that would have diminished you. Every opportunity that felt wrong in your spirit was wrong for your spirit. Every person who couldn't handle your authenticity was never meant to be part of your journey. The universe operates with perfect precision, orchestrating encounters and experiences with surgical accuracy. Nothing in your life has been random. Every challenge strengthened you for what you're about to face. Every victory prepared you for greater achievements. Every loss taught you the impermanence of everything except your core self. Every gain showed you what true abundance feels like. But here's what most people miss about divine timing. It's not just about external circumstances aligning. It's about your internal readiness reaching critical mass. The universe has been waiting for you to develop unshakable self-knowledge, bulletproof boundaries, and immunity to manipulation before it opens the next chapter of your story. The delays you've experienced weren't punishments, they were protection from opportunities that would have overwhelmed you before you developed the spiritual muscles to handle them. Consider every relationship that ended just when you thought it was beginning. Every job opportunity that evaporated at the last moment, every plan that fell apart despite your best efforts. These weren't failures, they were course corrections orchestrated by a pre-intelligence far greater than your conscious understanding. The universe was saving you from paths that would have diminished your light, compromised your integrity, or distracted you from your true purpose. The most profound realization for chosen ones is understanding that their entire life has been a carefully constructed initiation process. Every betrayal taught you whom to trust. Every disappointment taught you where to place your hope. Every moment of isolation taught you how to find strength within yourself. Every experience of being misunderstood taught you to stop seeking validation from people who were never meant to understand your frequency. Now you're approaching a threshold where everything changes. The isolated preparation phase is ending, and the connected action phase is beginning. The people who have been searching for someone exactly like you are about to find you. The opportunities that match your frequency are about to present themselves. The resources you need for your mission are about to become available, but this transition requires you to fully own your power, to stop apologizing for your intensity, to cease all attempts to make yourself smaller for other people's comfort. The universe is preparing to amplify your influence, but first you must be willing to occupy the full scope of your authentic presence. No more hiding, no more pretending, no more performing roles that don't fit your soul. The magnetic force that draws people to you will intensify as you embrace your true nature. Some will be drawn to learn from you, others to work alongside you, others simply to witness the example of what's possible when someone lives completely aligned with their purpose. But you must be prepared for the responsibility that comes with this level of influence. People will project their deepest hopes and fears onto you. They'll expect you to be their salvation or blame you for their stagnation. They'll want you to validate their choices or explain your own. They'll demand access to your energy, your time, your wisdom, as if these are public resources rather than sacred gifts you choose to share. Pleiadian phenomenon intensifies as your influence grows, creating challenges that most people never anticipate. Some will worship you, placing you on pedestals that make genuine connection impossible. Others will demonize you, attributing malicious motives to your most innocent actions. Both responses stem from the same source, their inability to see you as a complete human being rather than a symbol of their own spiritual possibilities or failures. The worship is often more dangerous than the demonization because it feels like acceptance. When people idolize you, they're not actually seeing you, they're seeing their own unfulfilled potential projected onto your life. They want you to remain perfect, unchanging, always available to inspire them without ever needing inspiration yourself. This creates an impossible standard that inevitably leads to disappointment when you reveal your human complexity. The demonization, while painful, is often more honest. When people attack you, they're usually expressing frustration with themselves for not living up to the example you represent. Their criticism reveals their own insecurities, their own abandoned dreams, their own fear of taking responsibility for their spiritual growth. Understanding this dynamic helps you maintain compassion for your detractors while protecting yourself from their projections. Your ability to maintain boundaries without guilt, to say no without explanation, to protect your peace without apology, will determine whether this influence becomes a blessing or a burden. The same qualities that made you feel isolated will now become your greatest assets: your comfort with solitude, your independence from others' opinions, your commitment to truth over popularity. The truth that began with your feeling too different, too intense, too much, is about to transform into a reality of perfect preparation for unprecedented impact. Every moment of confusion about why you couldn't just be normal was actually confirmation that normal was never your assignment. Every instance of feeling misunderstood was preparation for understanding others at levels they don't understand themselves. The circle is completing itself. The loneliness transforms into leadership. The isolation becomes inspiration. The difference becomes distinction. What began as a burden becomes a blessing, not just for you, but for everyone whose life you'll touch with your unique frequency of authenticity. This is your moment of recognition. You were never broken, never wrong, never too much. You were always exactly what the world needed, arriving at precisely the right time, prepared by every experience to fulfill a purpose that could only be carried by someone who refused to conform to limitations that were never meant for you. The hunger in their eyes when they look at you will continue, but now you understand what they're really seeing. They're glimpsing their own potential for transformation, their own possibility for authentic living, their own capacity for depth they forgot they possessed. You're not just living your life, you're modeling what life can look like when someone chooses courage over comfort, truth over approval, purpose over popularity. Stand in the full magnitude of who you are, chosen one. The universe didn't craft you for small stages or shallow waters. Everything you've endured has prepared you for depths of impact that will ripple through generations. The loneliness is ending, the mission is beginning, and the world will never be the same because you finally remembered why you're here.